Hello, everyone. Today's talk is part of Beyond the Classroom, a video series presented by Dhi Artspace of Hyderabad. This initiative is primarily aimed at the issues faced by young art practitioners at the beginning of their careers. And this is basically meant for people who just come out of the art college and are aspiring to be some kind of a creative professional in their lives and find themselves at a loose end. Some basic do's and don'ts that I want to share with you guys. I think everybody who passes out of an art college finds themselves at a loose end because they suddenly find themselves isolated. They find themselves without the roof of the institution above their heads. They often are also trying to figure out what is the next step and how to decide that because you have a degree in something doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be doing that for the rest of your life. Say, for instance, you come out with a degree in sculpture. Does that automatically make you a sculptor or a degree in printmaking or painting or anything for that matter? Now, how do you find out? I think there are three basic parameters that if you apply to yourself, I think the answer will reveal itself. One is that, of course, what you can do. And considering that you have had a degree which takes 4 years for a bachelor's and 2 more years for a master's or a post-diploma, you already have a fair idea of what you can do. The other thing is what you want to do. And that is sometimes slightly different from what you can do. So you actually can want to do very many things, but it'll have to be moderated by, of course, what you want to do is to be moderated with what you can do. But third and the most important point is that what you enjoy doing the most, what you love doing. Now, if these three things, what you can do, what you want to do, and what you love doing most, are the one and the same thing, then things are sorted out for you. But it very often happens that you feel kind of a pressure that because I've had this degree, I have to do certain things. If I have a degree in sculpture, I have to be a sculptor. I have a degree in painting. Then if I'm not, then I'm sort of not living up to it, which I think is you can discard that idea, because there are many people who have degrees in one thing and excelled in doing something else in their lives. So if you think your calling is teaching, or your calling is doing something which is creative but not necessarily tallying with the degree that you have, I think that is just fine. There's no need to feel any sense of guilt. Besides, if you choose to be a professional artist, the present situation, I mean, this has been more or less true about every epoch and era, that probably 1 in 10 succeeds in doing it in the first few years. Others have to take a very roundabout way to get there, and all this while they need to sustain themselves with a parallel job. And I think there is no shame in it. If it's an honest job, you'll just have to go and do it, because the first responsibility that you have towards you is to earn a living if you have a degree. And no matter how you do it, if you are focused that, okay, I want to be a professional practitioner of art in some form, you may need a second job, and there is absolutely no qualms, no second thoughts about it. You have to do it, what you have to do to sustain yourself to begin with. Now, then comes a question of how do you keep in touch and how do you keep up your practice. They're two very important things. I think you have to have a designated time and space, because unlike in a college, when you are outside the college, you realize that you are not expected to do only art for the whole time. Nobody can afford it. Even a very senior artist rarely finds that they're only expected to do art. So you are basically multitasking. And within that world, you will have to find some time devoted to your practice. So that time you will have to find. The other thing necessary is to find some kind of a space that is partly a mental space, but partly also a physical space. Now, if you can afford to rent a space or have a room of your own, well and good. But if you don't, then at least you should have a table, a work table, where you keep your things and you can go back to at a regular clip. And the regularity of work is very important. The next comes that how do you then move ahead? There are so many resources. We are living in an era of the electronic age, and on the web there is enormous amount of information, enormous amount of resources available. But because there is so much choice, the importance of choosing the right thing is also very important. So one has to be careful about how you spend time in the online world, and so that you make the most of it, rather than just doing social networking in a haphazard, unplanned way. It is better when it comes to your profession that you be a little more professional and you do the research in a sort of a systematic way. So one of the things is to find out that who are the artists that you respond to, what are the skills that you would like to learn. And believe me, almost much of it is available online. The other thing is to have a sort of a circle of friends. I think that is very important. It could be, and friends, I don't necessarily mean your young buddies or your school buddies, but it could be somebody from your college, it could be your ex-teacher, but you need some kind of a supportive circle to carry on the work. Now, if you have these few criterias, you will find it much easier going. Now, if you are want to be an artist who's represented by a gallery, or you have to look for opportunities as in some fellowships, scholarships, art residencies, alternative artist run spaces, there are all kinds of venues which you will, if you research, you can find out more about it. But once you decide that, okay, these are the kind of things that I'm going to apply, then you will have to prepare yourself and do some homework. The first thing that you do in your homework is to choose that what kind of things suit your kind of work. Not everything is meant for everybody, and that is a given. Now, to choose that is something that you will have to rely on certain things and certain homework and preparation on your part. Now, the first two things that I would recommend to anybody who has some kind of aspirations of being in the artistic field as a practicing artist is to have a good portfolio made where things are done professionally, good quality photographs, because good art can be sabotaged completely by bad quality reproduction. I've seen that happen. So I would urge you to be particularly careful about that how the image, because most people would get to see your work, especially if you're applying for something, is through the reproduction, the photographs that you send. And those photographs have to be very good, clear, and you have two kinds of files, a large file and a small file, and read carefully the instructions that are given to you. Don't just blindly send things. They may say that there is a size restriction. Then there is a lot of things that we sometimes miss out because we are in a hurry to do it, especially for scholarship, fellowships, residencies and such things. So read what is expected, do some research on the residency, find out which are the artists who have got it before you, or if they are saying something that they want specifically from you, or if they want a project for you to submit, then how to write a project. How do you write a CV? These are very important things. You can write a CV which is very long winding, very poetic, but has um, 20 spelling mistakes, which is very bad form. I would rather that you write a short CV which is relevant, which is to the point, and does not talk about irrelevant things. So you are applying for an art residency. It's no point mentioning that when you are in 12th standard you won a cup in sports unless it is related to your artwork. So these are the kind of things that one has to be um, careful about in your homework and preparation or preparedness. Or you apply, you all along your work has been something to do with the urban world, and you're suddenly applying for a residency which is in a mountain, in a forest, and you're not really giving a reason for why you want to do that. It's like a random thing that you do. Now if you are approaching a gallery, most people make this mistake that they just randomly send mails, and very long ones, introducing themselves, and generic letters which just addresses people like sir slash madam, and copy paste it and send it to 20 galleries hoping that it'll click with some images saying that I'm interested in showing with you, blah blah blah. I will tell you one thing, most galleries get 5 to 10 mails like that almost on a daily basis, and it will go to the trash almost immediately, and you have very little hope of them being seen. So if you can organize a show, if you can show those works in some other form, or if you get to know somebody in the gallery, or the artist that they represent, whom you respond to, and not all galleries show all kinds of artists. So the first thing is to figure out which galleries might be interested in your work. And so then you kind of, if you are lucky, you find a gallery. And then there are also things that you should be doing and you shouldn't be doing. But before coming to that, these praying mails that a gallerist friend of mine just mentioned, that these generic mails that are sent um, are absolutely useless. So you have to have targeted mails, and only if you know, or you've been recommended by somebody, or you made some kind of an introduction of yourself to the gallery, only then write to them, and write to them in a sort of a personalized mail. Make it short and crisp, and make sure that there are no obvious grammatical mistakes. English is obviously the preferred language of the art world, but that doesn't mean that you feel confident in that language. There is absolutely no shame in writing a statement and a CV, or even a letter, and run it through a friend who will give you a feedback or a second opinion, or maybe good with the language. So you don't have to do it all by yourself. Then that is essentially why it is so important, because everybody can use each other's expertise if you have a group of friends or a circle where you can share these things. Now, bad quality visuals is something that also needs to be avoided. Short mails, short CVs, professionally written CVs, and good quality images. These are the basics. But before you get to that stage, you make sure that it will be seen and not sent at random. Now, once, if you are fortunate enough, and not everybody is lucky, you may have to wait for a while to find a gallery. But if you do find a gallery, or some galleries show an interest in showing you, please remember a few things. That if you are a professional, then a certain standard of behavior is expected of you. This whole idea of I'm a madcap artist, I can do anything and everything, and people will finally take note because I'm a genius, doesn't really work in the real world. So almost every time you are approached by a gallery, you will be offered a group show to begin with, and the gallery will want to test waters with you, as you would want to test water with the gallery. So you will have to have that flexibility to keep the work with them for a specified period, decide on those specifics. If you can, get a written contract. If you can't, at least write it to them in a mail, get your approval that okay, these are the terms and conditions. and the work will stay with the gallery. I'm not going to demand it back immediately after the show. And Also, pricing is something that you best arrive at by consultation with the gallery in a transparent and honest manner. So discuss it with them, have those things settled. And the if you cannot have the ideal of a written contract, then at least, like I said, get them in some form of writing, or you mention them in your email and get it approved beforehand. And if you make a commitment, then try your level best to stick to that commitment. I think that is very big part of professionalism. And a lot of people I hear are, within the first couple of years of their professional life, get into big fights, get into misunderstandings, get into all kinds of bad blood. It's best avoided. Galleries are there for a purpose, and you are going to use them. The galleries will also probably use you. It is a given. So as much as possible, try to be transparent, honest, and straightforward, and spell out things beforehand so as to avoid misunderstandings at a later date. If you have anything that you think needs clarification, please do talk about it and get clarifications beforehand so that you avoid these kinds of misunderstandings at the end of the day. Now, having said that, all you will find that some people are luckier than some other people, but please remember that if you are choosing to be an artist, you are in it for long haul, जिसको हिंदी में कहते हैं लंबी दौड़ के घोड़े. So if you are there, the gambit is for a long time. You need to have the necessary patience, the wherewithal to sustain it. And you can support yourself any which way. And don't assume that that you will be able to live by your art. That may take a little while. And for that period of time, you should be able to support yourself some way or the other. And whatever that may be, as long it's an honest day's job and you are doing it with all sincerity, and you know your purpose very clearly in your head, that this is not what you are going to do for the rest of your life, but it's a temporary arrangement to support you sail through this period, well and good. And if you're doing something that you already like somewhat, then, well, that's even better. But with these sort of some do's and don'ts in mind, I think you will be able to present your case much better to the professional world, which is very different from the world of academia of an art institution. And unfortunately, our academias do not actually give you, often prepare you for this, and you will have to learn the hard way. So it is by trial and error, but if you can minimize the errors, I think your trials will be much more fruitful. With that, I would say thank you for listening and good luck. All the best.